first days of fall, and it's the turn of the seasons. It's also time to turn the garden crops, maybe turn the soil. Earlier this year, I had conducted an experiment here in the garden where I used biochar that I made myself in my Weber grill, and I also used a permanent cover crop of New Zealand white clover across the area, then planted it with corn, beans, and chilies, zucchini, and so on. Ordinarily, I refrain from tilling soil most of the time, but I was curious what was going on down here in the earth beneath the corn, and trying to get in a hurry to prepare for putting in fall crops like peas, broccoli, cabbages. I went ahead and I fired up the good old rototiller over here, and I turned everything under a bit. I was surprised with what I found when I got down to soil level. Here the chips of biochar are still rather evident in the soil. They haven't broken down much at all. I noticed that the crumb structure of the soil was improved. This is a clay soil here in the Bay Area. Most of us, unless you live out on the island there, the Alameda, most of us have clay and silt soils. And so the soil crumbled quite easily. Well, I found as I pushed my garden spade into the earth and turned things over a little bit deeper, what I saw was an awful lot of microbial activity. Tiny little white flecks throughout the entire soil, which are mycorrhizal fungi mostly. The soil appeared to be almost completely colonized. Here is roots spreading through here. You can see all the little white dots. All those little white dots in the soil indicate colony by organisms. It also breaks down really nicely, which is again a symptom of that the soil is filled with life. Here, right under the living clover at the edge of the patch, we look at the strands of root here. You can see the little rhizobia colonies, the little balls that are on the root strands there. So we fixed a lot of nitrogen on the clover. There you can see all the little bumps on the roots. Those are rhizobia bacteria that have colonized the roots of the clover, and they fix nitrogen from the air. Just outside the area I tilled, you can see my crops growing here: Romanesco, ancho chilies, basil. There's pole beans over here growing up the wires. They're all growing in a bed of New Zealand white clover. On the other side of the aisle over here, you can see the area where my corn had been growing. The stubble is obvious laying on the ground. This was also, again, biochar and Dutch white clover and New Zealand white clover. I stopped tilling right here along the edge of the chilies, and you can still see the clover there. And as we walk out here and take a look at this stuff, this soil moves and looks on the camera like it might even be a sandy loam. Notice how loose and easy it moves around under my toe here. But actually this is a clay silt loam, and it's the cover crops and the biochar that have made the difference. I decided to do business with the earth here because we had a late September rain, which is kind of a rarity in this area, but it did dampen the dust down, loosen the soil some, and I was able to get in here with my tiller and do some turning without choking to death. You can see the stems here, the clover, everything that was on the ground here, whether it be the corn or the clover, everything went into the soil. And again, you can see how this soil handles almost like it's a sandy loam, and you see all those little bitty white particles in there. That and there's also some threads of mycorrhizal strands in the soil here too. You got a whole lot of different life that accumulated. It's the life that makes the difference in this earth, and so we got double duty here. Here waiting in the greenhouse, I've got broccoli, peas, lettuce, spinach, a whole lot of onion transplants here. All of this stuff is waiting for about the middle of the month, October, to get on out there and become the winter garden in this area. In the meantime, I'm growing up the plants, and we've been working on preparing the earth. So by using living cover crops and biochar in the garden along with the vegetable crops for the year, I managed to get double duty. We've got both soil building that happened here and enrichment at the same time that we got a harvest. All the noise in the background over here is they're knocking down the McDonald's around the corner. Another blow against corporate food. While standing here running a video camera in Bill's organic garden, next door McDonald's is being destroyed.